The vote against Earth, the chamber of the Galactic Council, was massive, built to hold thousands of delegates from every star nation. Light from distant suns reflected off crystal walls, and the air carried the weight of judgment. It was here that humanity's fate was about to be sealed. The voices of alien leaders echoed one after another, harsh and cold. Earth has caused too much chaos. Humans are too dangerous to be trusted. They fight wars even when peace is offered. Each voice added to the storm. Each word was another nail in the coffin. In the center of the chamber stood the human ambassador, dressed in black, his face calm but unreadable. Around him, alien eyes glared with suspicion, fear, and hatred. The vote had begun. One by one, the delegates raised their glowing symbols. Green for banishment, red for mercy. Green. 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 The chamber filled with the sickly glow of judgment. Only a handful dared to raise red, but their voices were drowned by the majority. The result was clear long before the last hand lifted. Speaker of the Council, an old alien with silver scales, spoke with finality. By the will of this council, Earth is hereby exiled from the stars. Humanity shall leave the territories of the Council at once. Their membership is ended. Their protection is ended. A silence followed, heavy and absolute. Many delegates smirked with satisfaction. Others sighed with relief. In their minds, the threat of humanity was finally contained. But the human ambassador did not break. He did not shout or beg. Instead, he allowed a small smile to form on his lips. It was not a smile of defeat. It was the smile of someone who already knew the outcome before the vote was cast. He stepped forward, his voice steady, carrying across the chamber. You think you cast us out, but we were already gone. The chamber stirred. Whispers spread quickly. What did he mean? Humanity, he continued, has never waited for permission. Not from kings, not from emperors, not from gods, and certainly not from you. Some aliens shouted in anger, but many froze, unsettled. There was something in his tone that carried weight beyond politics. It was not just defiance. It was truth. Wanted to exile us? Understand this. You did not exile Earth. You freed us. His eyes narrowed, and his words struck like blades. And we already had other plans. The ambassador lowered his gaze for a moment, then turned his back on the Council. The sound of his boots echoed against the polished floor as he walked toward the exit. Not once did he look back. The council erupted into chaos. Some shouted warnings. Others demanded his arrest. But the vote had already passed. The law of the council gave humanity one cycle to leave their space dot as the doors closed behind him. The ambassador whispered only to himself. Now they will see what exile really means. Far away, in the orbit above Earth, human fleets waited. In silence. Hundreds of ships, military, civilian, and secret designs never revealed to the council, were already prepared. Captains stood ready on bridges. Engines were warmed. Coordinates to uncharted space were locked. Humanity was not surprised by exile. They had been expecting it for years. Every insult, every restriction, every warning from the council had prepared them for this moment. And in the shadows, humanity had prepared something the council never imagined: independence. The council believed exile was punishment. But for humanity, it was freedom. As the first great fleet departed Earth, the night sky burned with the light of thousands of engines. Families wept as they left their homeworld, but inside each heart was a spark of anger, hope, and determination. On one flagship, the captain gave his crew a simple order: remember this night. They thought they cast us down. But one day, the galaxy will remember this as the night humanity began its rise. Back in the council chamber, alien leaders celebrated. They believed the threat was over. Humans are reckless. one said. They will not survive alone, another replied. They will collapse without us, the speaker declared. But in truth, their vote had changed the galaxy forever. The exile was not the end of Earth. It was the beginning of something far greater. And in the shadows of uncharted space, humanity's other plans were already unfolding. Asterisk the hidden departure. The galaxy thought humanity would crawl away in silence. They thought exile would break us. But out in the dark, far from the Council's eyes, the real story began. High above Earth, the Exodus fleets waited. Hundreds of ships hovered in low orbit, their hulls dark, their lights dimmed, hiding from alien sensors. To an outsider, Earth looked quiet, abandoned, defeated. But deep inside those ships, humanity was alive and burning with resolve. On the bridge of the flagship Defiance, Captain Marcus Hylay stood tall, staring at the planet below. His crew waited for his command. Every face was sharp, hardened. Every hand hovered over controls, ready to leave everything behind. Are we ready? Hylay asked quietly. Aye, Captain, the navigator replied. All ships report green. Engines warmed, supplies loaded. The colonies are waiting. Hylay nodded slowly. His voice lowered, but carried through the room. Then let history remember this moment. We leave not as exiles, but as pioneers. The order was given. Engines lit up, like stars being born. One by one, human ships broke orbit. Their paths bent not toward Council space, but away far beyond mapped systems, into the dark frontier. The Council had always underestimated humans. They thought exile meant chaos. They imagined Earth's people begging for scraps, fighting among themselves. But they never understood what exile meant to a species born on a death world. Humans had already prepared. Secret shipyards, hidden in asteroid belts, had been building for decades. Supplies had been stored in caves on distant moons. New drives faster than anything the Council approved had been quietly tested in the void. This was not desperation. This was a plan, and it had a name whispered only among captains. Project Horizon. On the Exodus fleet's second wave, young pilot Aria Len sat in her small fighter docked against a transport carrier. She listened to the chatter over comms as families boarded ships, children crying, elders singing old Earth songs. She gripped her controls and whispered to herself, They think they sent us away, but we're already gone. Her words echoed those of the ambassador. Every human knew the truth now. Exile was not punishment. It was a doorway. As the fleet slipped into hyperspace, the stars stretched into streams of light. Earth grew smaller behind them, fading into darkness. Many wept, but no one turned back, for in their hearts they carried Earth with them. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, alien leaders toasted with crystal glasses. The humans will vanish into the void, one laughed. They will collapse. In one generation, another added. They are finished, the speaker said with certainty. But none of them knew that human ships had already crossed into uncharted regions. None of them knew about the massive star stations already under construction. None of them knew that humans had found new ally species who had also suffered under council arrogance. In the dark, away from the eyes of their enemies, humanity was not dying. Humanity was multiplying. In a hidden nebula, construction lights flashed as massive human colonies came alive. Giant forges burned inside asteroids, producing weapons and engines the Council had banned. On the surface of a harsh, frozen planet, soldiers trained in silence. Engineers tested new drives. Scientists unlocked secrets long forbidden. And on every world, the same promise was spoken. We will never bow again. Back aboard the Defiance, Captain Hylay stood before his crew. His words were sharp, each one a blade. They exiled us because they feared us. They were right to fear. Out here, beyond their reach, We will build stronger, faster, freer than ever before. And when they look for us, they will not find beggars. They will find lions." The crew roared in answer. As weeks turned to months, the Exodus fleets disappeared. From all council records, patrols sent to track them never returned. Spies who tried to follow found only silence. The galaxy began to whisper, "Where did the humans go?" But humanity left no trace. Their ships traveled on paths unknown, their colonies hidden in regions no alien dared explore. They became shadows in the dark. Until the time was right. One night, in the black void, Aria Len received a secret transmission. She played it in silence, her eyes widening. It was the ambassador's voice, recorded the night of exile. "They think we are gone, but we are not gone. We are preparing. When the galaxy sees us again, it will not be as exiles. It will be as masters of our own destiny." Aria's hands tightened on her controls, her heart pounding. She smiled. "Let them wait. We'll be ready." The council thought exile ended, the human story. But in truth, it was only the first chapter. Humanity had disappeared into the dark, and in the silence of the void, their other plans were beginning to take shape. Asterisk. Building beyond the stars, the galaxy thought humanity vanished. No signals, no trade, no whispers. For the council, it was proof of their success. Humans had been erased. But in the uncharted dark, humanity was more alive than ever. The first great colonies were built in places no other species dared to go. Planets with burning deserts, frozen wastelands, crushing gravity, and poisonous skies. To aliens, these were death worlds. To humans, they felt strangely familiar. On Vega Prime, storms of glass shards raged across the surface. Alien surveyors had called it uninhabitable. Yet now, massive domes of steel stood strong, filled with human families. Children laughed inside as winds screamed outside. On Draken 4, temperatures dropped colder than the void. The council had abandoned it long ago. But human miners carved deep into the ice, building furnaces that glowed like suns. Everywhere others saw death, humans found home. Inside a command hall on Vega Prime, leaders of the Exodus fleets gathered. The walls were bare metal, the air heavy with the smell of iron and smoke. Around the table sat not only humans, but others, the Rylocs, a reptilian race once enslaved by the council. The Tyrish, insect-like creatures, whose colonies had been stripped of resources. And the Kalan, bird-like nomads whose worlds had been burned in council wars. They had all found something in humanity, a chance to fight back. The meeting began with Captain Marcus Holley. His voice was firm, his eyes burning. The council thought exile would kill us. Instead, it gave us freedom. And we will not waste it. The Rylocs leader hissed in agreement. "We joined the humans because you do not beg. You build, you fight, you endure. That is strength." The Tyrish ambassador clicked his mandibles. "Our brood remembers. Together, we are more than exiles. We are survivors." For the first time in centuries, the oppressed and forgotten races found a banner worth following. Humanity's, the secret project. Horizon was no longer just about survival. It was about building something the council could never imagine. A shadow alliance. Shipyards hidden in asteroid fields forged massive warships, sharper and faster than anything the council permitted. Scientists, free from restrictions, unlocked. Technologies long forbidden. Soldiers trained not for defense, but for the day they would return. And in the hearts of the people, a new identity grew. They were no longer citizens of the council. They were no longer bound by alien rules. They were free humans of the Horizon. But freedom came with sacrifice. On Vega Prime, a young engineer named Daniel worked tirelessly on a new fusion drive. His hands were scarred from burns, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Yet when asked why he pushed himself so hard, his answer was simple: because one day the galaxy will come for us. And when they do, we must already be ahead. In deep space, a squadron of experimental ships tested new weapons. Aria Len, the young pilot from the Exodus, now led them. Her fighter roared through the void, weaving between asteroids faster than any alien craft ever recorded. When the test ended, she reported back calmly, "The Council thinks we are gone, but out here we are reborn." Meanwhile, rumors began to spread. Alien traders whispered about mysterious fleets seen near the edges of known space. Some said entire Council patrols had vanished. Others claimed new colonies were thriving on impossible worlds. The Council dismissed these as lies. "Humans cannot survive without us," the speaker said. But his eyes betrayed fear, because deep down, the Council knew the truth. Humanity was too quiet. And quiet enemies are the most dangerous. Years passed. The Horizon Alliance grew in secret. Worlds once forgotten now carried banners of steel and flame. Entire generations were raised never knowing the Council's chains. They were taught one promise, repeated in every school, every ship, every colony: never again will we bow. One night, inside a hidden war station, the leaders of humanity and their allies gathered again. Maps of Council space lit the dark chamber. Fleets were marked. Trade routes glowed like veins. And in the center, Earth's old home system blinked. In red, Captain Howell stood at the head of the table. His words cut through the silence. "They cast us out. But exile is no prison. It is a weapon, and soon it will be turned against them." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the leaders nodded. The Rylox hissed, the Tyrish clicked, the Kaelin spread their wings. The decision was made. Humanity had built beyond the stars. They had forged alliances in shadows. They had turned exile into strength. And now, the galaxy's greatest mistake was ready to be revealed. The Council thought Earth was gone, but Earth was only waiting. Asterisk, the galaxy's mistake at first. The Council laughed. Years had passed since the exile, and no human voices echoed in their chambers. No ships came to their markets. No ambassadors arrived with demands. To them, humanity had been erased. But then, patrols began to vanish. It started small, one border ship missing here, a scout lost there. The Council dismissed it as space, pirates, or storms. But soon, entire patrol fleets disappeared. Reports trickled in, hushed and nervous. "We found the wreckage of the Krylon's Pride hull torn apart by unknown weapons. An outpost in the Arkan sector was destroyed. No survivors. A shadow fleet was sighted, but the ships, they did not match any species we know. And yet, some captains swore the designs looked strangely familiar. In the Great Council chamber, delegates shouted in alarm. These attacks are coordinated. Who dare strike at the Council itself? The speaker slammed his claw against the podium. Find them. Crush them. No one defies us. But deep inside, fear had already begun to spread. Far beyond their borders, in hidden strongholds, humanity listened. The Horizon Alliance had grown bold. No longer were they only building, they were striking. On the bridge of her fighter, Aria, Len smirked as she flew past the smoking wreck of a Council frigate. Her squadron cheered behind her. "That's the 5th fleet this cycle," she said calmly. "They'll start to realize soon." Her second-in-command laughed. "Let them realize. By the time they know it's us, it will already be too late." Meanwhile, on Vega Prime, Captain Marcus Hala stood before his people. Behind him, banners of humanity and its allies draped the walls. His voice carried through the great hall. The Council made their choice. They thought exile would end us. Instead, it made us stronger. And now, their mistake will cost them everything. The crowd roared in answer, voices like thunder. The council tried to investigate. They sent spies into the void. They offered bounties to mercenaries. They even dispatched their most advanced fleets to hunt the shadow enemy. None returned. Wreckage floated in silence. Distress calls cut short. Entire armadas disappeared into the black. The whispers grew louder. It's the humans. At first, no one believed. Humans are too weak. They cannot build such ships. They cannot fight the council. But the evidence was undeniable. Hull fragments matched Earth designs heavily modified, stronger, faster. Survivors of attacks reported hearing a name over enemy comes, a name that chilled even the bravest: defiance. In the council chamber, panic grew. Exile was supposed to protect us. You promised they would collapse. This is worse than war. They are ghosts in the dark. The speaker's scales dulled with age and fear. He whispered words no one wanted to hear. We may have created our greatest enemy. Back in the Horizon Alliance, the leaders gathered. The Rylocs hissed with pride. The Tyrish clicked in rhythm, their war song rising. The Kalen spread their wings in defiance. Captain Hall stood among them, calm but fierce. They call it exile. We call it freedom. They call it rebellion. We call it justice. The galaxy will soon learn the cost of underestimating humanity. But not all humans celebrated Dot in the colonies. Children asked their parents why they could never see Earth again. Farmers whispered of the dangers ahead. Elders worried about a war too large to survive. Yet even in their fear, they understood one truth. It was the Council who had chosen this path. Humanity had only answered. Aria Len, staring out into the void from her cockpit, thought of those words often. She remembered Earth's blue skies, now far behind, and clenched her fists around the controls. They thought they erased us, she whispered. But now we are written in fire. Her squadron jumped into hyperspace. Another strike waiting. The Council's mistake was not in exiling Earth. Their mistake was believing exile meant defeat. In truth, exile had unlocked something far worse: humanity unchained. And the galaxy had only begun to feel the consequences. Asterisk. The first clash for years. Humanity struck like ghosts. Fleets vanished. Outposts burned. Whispers spread across the stars. But no one had seen them, not fully. That changed on the day of the Valoran ambush. The Valoran system was quiet. Its twin. Suns glowed red. Its asteroid belts mined for council metals. A patrol fleet of 20 council warships drifted lazily, scanning for smugglers. Then their sensors screamed that an entire human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Dozens of ships, sleek and black, marked with the sigil of a burning star. At the center was the flagship Defiance. The council commander, Admiral Gier, panicked. His scaled hands slammed against controls. Unknown fleet detected. Prepare weapons. But deep down, he already knew. The ships looked too familiar. The angles, the engines, the way they moved. It was Earth, reborn and sharpened. The comms lit up with a voice, calm but cold. This is Captain Marcus Halley of the Free Humans. You exiled us. You thought we would vanish. Today, we show you the truth. The channel cut. Silence followed. Then hell began. The human fleet moved with impossible precision. Fighters streaked through the void, weaving between blasts. Missiles split apart mid-flight, turning into swarms of smaller warheads. Railguns cracked, tearing holes through alien armor. The council ships, proud and arrogant, collapsed under the fury. Admiral Gier screamed for retreat, but his ships had nowhere to run. One by one, they were reduced to flaming wrecks. And for the first time in history, the galaxy saw the council outmatched. On board the Defiance, Captain Halley stood steady, his voice unshaken. Keep one alive. Let them crawl back. Let the galaxy hear what they saw. His crew obeyed. One council cruiser, broken and burning, limped into hyperspace, its only mission now to carry a warning. News spread like wildfire. Humans, they're back. They destroyed a whole fleet. They are stronger than ever. Some species cheered in secret, hoping for freedom. Others trembled, fearing what humanity might do next. The council itself fell into chaos. They should have been broken. This cannot be possible. We must crush them before it spreads. But their words were hollow. For the first time, the council's power looked fragile. Among the Horizon Alliance, celebration thundered. On Vega Prime, entire cities lit fires in honor of the victory. The Rylocs roared their war songs. The Tyrish clicked their mandibles. In rhythm, the Kalins spread their wings to the stormy skies, and humanity stood proud, no longer hidden. Yet Captain Hale was not celebrating. Alone in his chamber, he studied maps of council space. His face was grim. This is only the beginning. He whispered, "They will come for us with everything they have. We must be ready." Meanwhile, Aria Len walked through her hangar, her fighter scarred from battle. Young mechanics rushed to repair it, their eyes glowing with awe. One child, no older than 12, tugged at her arm. "Is it true?" The child asked softly, "Did you really defeat the council?" Aria knelt, placing a hand on the child's shoulder. "No," she said with a small smile. "We did, all of us." Back in council chambers, panic turned to fury. "This rebellion cannot stand," the speaker shouted. But another delegate, older and wiser, whispered what everyone feared. "This is not rebellion. This is payback." The chamber fell silent. Across the galaxy, one truth echoed louder than ever. Humanity had returned. Not as exiles, not as beggars, but as warriors who had learned to build, endure, and strike harder than anyone imagined. The council thought exile ended the human story, but the first clash had proven the truth. It was only the beginning of war. Fire across the stars. The council had never known fear. For centuries, their fleets ruled unchallenged, their laws forced upon every world. No one dared resist. But then came Valoran. One fleet gone. One council admiral crawling back with the truth. Humanity had returned. The council swore to crush them quickly. Instead, the galaxy began to burn. It started in the border systems. Human fleets and their allies struck fast, hitting supply lines, earning depots, and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. On Draxus 9, entire shipyards collapsed under human missiles. On Vera Prime, prisoners freed themselves when human marines stormed the camps. On Tyrax Belt, a council armada was ambushed and shattered in hours. The war spread like fire, and with each blaze came a message. The exiles have returned. Inside the council chamber, chaos ruled. Entire sectors are lost. They fight like nothing we've seen before. Where did they find this power? But no answer satisfied them. The council could not accept the truth that humanity had turned exile into evolution. Meanwhile, in the Horizon Alliance, hope spread like never before. The Rylocs, once enslaved, now fought side by side with human soldiers. Their scaled warriors ripped through council ranks with fury. The Tyrish, long robbed of their brood colonies, now swarmed enemy fleets with terrifying unity. The Kalin, wings spread against the stars, rained fire from the skies in their sleek strike craft. For the first time in history, the broken races of the galaxy had one banner, one voice, one leader: humanity. On the Defiance, Captain Marcus Hale stood before his fleet. The stars beyond his window glowed red from burning ships. His crew waited for his command, their faces hardened. "They cast us out," Hala said quietly, his voice carrying across the combs. "They thought exile would destroy us." But exile only freed us. Now we fight not just for Earth, but for every world they broke. We fight so no child will ever kneel to the council again. The fleet roared back with a single word, freedom. But war carried its cost. On Vega Prime, mothers waited for sons and daughters who never came home. On Draken 4, miners dug deeper to fuel the war, their hands blistered and bloody. Even children learned to fight, carrying messages through tunnels, helping build weapons in secret yards. Arya Len, once just a daring pilot, now carried the weight of command. Her squadron had lost 3 in the Valoran ambush, and more every day since at night. She sat alone by her fighter, running her fingers over the names carved into its hull. Each one was a friend, each one a reminder. Every victory, she whispered, is paid in blood. The council struck back hard. They sent fleets larger than anything seen before. They burned rebel colonies. They hunted for horizon bases. Entire worlds shook under their wrath. But every time they pushed, humanity pushed harder. Every time they won, humanity struck back twice as strong. It was a war the council had not prepared for, a war of endurance, of will. A war the humans were born from. Then came the greatest shock of all. A council fleet of 500 ships gathered to crush the rebellion once and for all. They marched on the rim, expecting easy victory, but what they found waiting shattered their pride. A human armada. Thousands of ships, not only human, but Rylox, Tyrish, Kalen, and more. Ships built in secret, forged by decades of planning, hidden in exile. The 2 greatest forces of the galaxy faced each other in silence. The void itself seemed to hold its breath. And then, for the first time in centuries, the council hesitated. On the bridge of the Defiance, Hale gave the order. Light the fire. The void exploded with war. Railguns screamed. Missiles swarmed. Fighters weaved in burning trails. The battle was not just fought, it was unleashed. Entire sectors glowed red as fleets clashed in fury. And in that chaos, the council understood their mistake in full. Exile had not broken humanity. Exile had created an army. They could never stop. By the battle's end, wreckage floated in silence. Both sides bled. Both sides burned. But one truth was clear. The council no longer ruled unchallenged. The fire of war had spread across the stars, and no one could put it out. Asterisk. The dawn of a new order. The war had lasted months. Systems burned. Fleets vanished. Entire star maps were rewritten with fire. And through it all, one truth echoed louder than the council's lies. Humanity had returned. Now, the final battle loomed. The council had gathered their last strength. A fortress world at the heart of their empire, Zereth Prime. Its skies bristled with fleets. Its surface glowed with weapons. Every gun, every soldier, every desperate hope was placed there. This will end them, the speaker declared. Exiles. Or not, humanity will fall at Zereth. But even as he spoke, his claws trembled. Across the void, on the Defiance, Captain Marcus Halal stared at the same fortress. Around him, the Horizon Alliance fleet stretched like a sea of stars, humans, and allies united, scarred but unbroken. Hale's voice cut through the silence. They thought exile was the end of us, but it was only the beginning. Today, we do not fight for revenge alone. We fight for freedom for every species they crushed, for every world they broke. Today, we end the council. The fleet roared in answer. And then the fire began. The Battle of Zereth shook the galaxy. Railguns cracked the sky open. Missiles streaked like falling stars. Fighters screamed through clouds of plasma. The council fought with the desperation of cornered beasts, but the horizon fought with something greater. Hope. The Raylox tore enemy ships apart with boarding claws. The Tyrish swarmed the skies, filling the void with thousands of wings. The Kellan storm ships rained fire like thunder from the heavens, and humanity struck at the heart, their warships cutting through fleets like blades of light. On the ground, soldiers clashed in brutal street battles. Aria Len, her fighter damaged, led troops through the burning alleys of Zereth Prime itself. Smoke stung her eyes, but her voice was fierce. Forward. Every step we take is another chain broken. Behind her, human marines and alien allies pushed onward, their flags rising over shattered towers. At last, the Defiance itself broke through the Council's defensive line. Its guns thundered, its hull blazing, carrying it straight toward the Council Tower. Inside, the speaker trembled as the great hall shook. Impossible, he whispered. They were supposed to die in exile. But the doors exploded open. Human marines stormed in, weapons raised, and behind them, Captain Hale himself walked forward, calm, steady, unflinching. The speaker spat in desperation. You think you've won? You're nothing but exiles. Savages, you will never rule the stars. Hale stopped only a few steps away. His voice was low, but it carried like thunder. We never wanted to rule. We wanted freedom. But you left us no choice. You built an empire on fear. Now we build a future on something stronger. The speaker sneered. And what is that? Hale's eyes burned. Unity. A single shot rang out. The speaker fell, and with him, the councils. Reign ended. The war was over. Across the galaxy, chains were broken. Camps emptied. Flags of rebellion rose high. Worlds once silent now sang with freedom. And at the center of it all stood humanity, not as conquerors, but as the fire that had lit the way. On Vega Prime, survivors gathered to honor the fallen. Aria Len stood with her squad, silent, remembering every friend carved into her fighter's hull. Tears burned her eyes, but pride filled her heart. They will never erase us again. She whispered in the new council chambers, not of the old empire, but of the Horizon Assembly. Humans sat alongside Rylox, Tyrish, Kalen, and dozens of freed species. For the first time, every voice had a place, and at its center, Captain Marcus Hale stood not as a warlord, not as a tyrant, but as a man who had carried exile into destiny. His words became the first law of the new galaxy. No species shall be cast out. No voice shall be silenced. Exile shall never again be used as a weapon. The galaxy remembered the day Earth was exiled, and the galaxy remembered the day exile forged freedom. Humanity, once broken, had become the fire that reshaped the stars, not just for themselves, but for all. Asterisk.